I should have trusted my gut from the beginning. That's the thing about intuition. It's usually right, even when everyone around you is telling you you're crazy. My name is David Chen, and I'm a network security contractor for a mid-sized tech company in Cleveland. I've been married to Rachel for 4 years, and for most of that time, things were good. Really good. She's a marketing coordinator at a pharmaceutical company, smart as hell, and when we met at a mutual friend's barbecue, I knew she was the one. She had this laugh that could fill a room, and this way of making everyone around her feel important. The problem started about 6 months ago when she got close with my younger brother Tyler. Too close. Tyler's always been the charming one in the family. 2 years younger than me, he works at a downtown sports bar and has this effortless way with people that I've always envied. Where I'm methodical and careful, Tyler's spontaneous and magnetic. Women have always flocked to him, and honestly, it never bothered me much until Rachel started joining that crowd. It began innocently enough. Tyler would drop by our house in the suburbs more often, staying for dinner, hanging out on weekends. Rachel seemed to light up whenever he was around, laughing at his stories about crazy customers and his weekend adventures. I was actually happy they were getting along, family harmony and all that. But then the club invitations started. Tyler knows about this new place downtown, Rachel would say, already applying her makeup in the bathroom mirror. He says they have amazing cocktails and a great DJ on Friday nights. Sounds fun, I'd reply, loosening my tie after a long day of debugging network security protocols. Give me 20 minutes to shower and change. Oh. She'd pause, mascara wand halfway to her lashes. Actually, Tyler already made reservations for 2, and you know how you feel about loud music and crowds. She wasn't wrong. I'm more of a quiet dinner and Netflix kind of guy. But still, something felt off about being excluded from plans that involved my wife and my brother. I could try to enjoy it, I'd offer. David, come on. You'd be miserable, and then I'd feel guilty for dragging you out. Just stay home, relax, work on that computer project you've been talking about. We'll be back by midnight. This conversation happened maybe once or twice a month at first. Then it became weekly, then twice a week. Rachel and Tyler hitting the town while I stayed home like some kind of hermit. The worst part was how they'd come back. Rachel would be flushed and giggling, smelling like expensive perfume and cigarette smoke, her hair messed up from dancing. Tyler would have this satisfied grin, like he'd just won something. They'd both be a little too loud, a little too familiar with each other, sharing inside jokes about people they'd met or things that had happened. You should have seen Tyler shut down this guy who was bothering some girl at the bar, Rachel would tell me, her eyes bright with admiration. He was so smooth about it, so confident. I'd nod and smile, but inside, something was twisting. 3 months ago, I finally said something. Rach, I'm feeling a little left out of these nights with Tyler. Maybe we could all do something together sometime? She was brushing her teeth, getting ready for bed after another night out. In the bathroom mirror, I could see her roll her eyes. David, you're being paranoid. Tyler and I are just friends. He's your brother, for God's sake. And honestly, you two are so different. You'd just end up sitting in the corner, checking your phone while we're trying to have fun. I'm not paranoid, I said, but even as the words left my mouth, I wondered if maybe I was. I just miss spending time with my wife. We spend plenty of time together. We live together, we have dinner together almost every night. But I'm allowed to have friends, aren't I? I'm allowed to go out and blow off steam after working all week. She had a point. I was being unreasonable, wasn't I? Tyler was my brother. Rachel was my wife. They were both adults, both trustworthy people. What was I worried about? But the feeling didn't go away. If anything, it got stronger. New Year's Eve was the breaking point. Rachel and Tyler had plans to hit some big party downtown, expensive tickets, fancy venue, the works. I wasn't even invited to buy my own ticket. It's Tyler's friend's event, Rachel explained, applying red lipstick in the hallway mirror. She looked stunning in a black dress I'd never seen before. Very exclusive, but you hate New Year's parties anyway, remember? All those drunk people, the noise, staying up past midnight. She was right again. I did hate New Year's parties, but this was different. This was my wife, celebrating the biggest party night of the year with my brother while I sat home alone. Maybe I could learn to like them, I said. Rachel sighed, the kind of long-suffering sigh that made me feel like a nagging child. David, please don't make this weird. We're going to have a few drinks, dance a little, and be home by 2. You can order that Chinese food you like and catch up on that cybersecurity course you've been putting off. Tyler showed up at 8, looking like he'd stepped out of a magazine in his fitted black shirt and designer jeans. He clapped me on the shoulder like we were old buddies. Sorry you can't make it tonight, bro, he said, but he didn't sound sorry at all. Maybe next time. I watched from the living room window as they got into Tyler's car, Rachel laughing at something he'd said, her hand briefly touching his arm. They looked like a couple heading out for a romantic evening. That night, I sat in my home office, staring at lines of code, but not really seeing them. I kept checking my phone, waiting for texts from Rachel. She sent exactly 2. Having fun. At 10:30 and running late, don't wait up, at 1:45 a.m. She got home at 3:20 a.m., stumbling slightly as she kicked off her heels in the entryway. Her lipstick was gone, her hair was a mess, and she smelled like cologne. Not the kind I wore. Be honest, if your partner came home smelling like someone else, would you confront immediately, or stay quiet and get proof? How was the party? I asked from the couch, where I'd been pretending to watch late-night TV. Amazing, she said, not quite meeting my eyes. Tyler knows how to show a girl a good time. The way she said it made my stomach drop. But when I looked at her face, searching for some sign of guilt or deception, she just looked tired and happy. I'm being paranoid, I told myself as I followed her upstairs. She's my wife, Tyler's my brother. I'm being paranoid. But 3 weeks later, when I found the receipt from a hotel downtown in Rachel's coat pocket, a receipt dated New Year's Eve, for a room that definitely wasn't the party venue, I realized my paranoia might have been the sanest thing about me. I stared at that hotel receipt for a full 5 minutes before my brain could process what I was seeing. The Marriott downtown, room 1247, checked in at 2:15 a.m. on January 1st, checked out at 11:30 a.m. the same day. The name on the receipt was Tyler Chen. My brother had used his credit card. My hands were shaking as I took a picture of the receipt with my phone, then carefully placed it back in Rachel's coat pocket exactly where I'd found it. She was upstairs taking a shower, humming some song I didn't recognize, completely oblivious to the fact that my world had just imploded. I sat on our couch, staring at the photo on my phone screen, trying to come up with innocent explanations. Maybe Tyler had gotten too drunk to drive home, and Rachel had helped him get a room to sleep it off. Maybe they'd run into other friends who needed a place to crash. Maybe there was some perfectly reasonable explanation that didn't involve my wife and my brother betraying me in the most fundamental way possible. But even as I ran through these scenarios, I knew I was lying to myself. The timeline didn't work. Rachel had texted me at 1:45 saying they were running late. By 2:15, they were checking into a hotel room together. They'd spent the night there, 9 hours, and then checked out late the next morning. The shower upstairs stopped running. I quickly put my phone away and tried to look casual, but my heart was pounding so hard I was sure Rachel would hear it when she came downstairs. "Hey, babe," she said, appearing in the living room with wet hair and wearing my old college t-shirt. She looked beautiful and relaxed, like someone without a care in the world. "What are you up to?" "Just checking work emails," I lied. "How was your day?" "Good. Busy. I'm thinking of ordering pizza for dinner. I'm too tired to cook." She curled up next to me on the couch, smelling like her vanilla body wash, and started scrolling through her phone. For a moment, I almost convinced myself that I'd imagined the whole thing. This was Rachel, my Rachel, who made terrible jokes during movies and always stole the last piece of pizza and left little notes in my lunch when she packed it for me. But the receipt was real. The timeline was real. And as I watched her scroll through her phone, I noticed she was texting someone and smiling. "Who's that?" I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. "Just Tyler," she said, not looking up. "He's telling me about this new restaurant that opened up near his place. Apparently they have great cocktails." My stomach clenched. "Are you thinking of checking it out?" "Maybe this weekend. You'd probably hate it. It's one of those trendy places with small plates and loud music." There it was again. The assumption that I wouldn't want to join them, the casual exclusion, the way she talked about Tyler like he was her social coordinator instead of my brother. "I might surprise you," I said. "Maybe I'm ready to try new things." Rachel finally looked up from her phone, and for just a second I saw something flicker across her face. Annoyance? Panic? But it was gone so quickly I might have imagined it. "David, you hate trendy restaurants. Remember when I dragged you to that tapas place for my birthday? You complained about the portion sizes all night." She wasn't wrong, but that wasn't the point. "People change," I said. "Do they?" She was looking at me strangely now, like I was a puzzle she couldn't solve. "You've been acting weird lately. More suspicious, more clingy. It's not like you." The word suspicious hit me like a slap. Here I was, holding evidence that my wife had spent the night in a hotel room with my brother, and she was making me feel bad for being suspicious. "I'm not being suspicious," I said. "I just want to spend more time with my wife." "We spend tons of time together." "When? When we're both exhausted after work? When we're running errands on weekends? When was the last time we went out and had fun together? Just the two of us? Rachel sighed, that same long-suffering sigh she'd been giving me more and more often lately. David, we're not 22 anymore. We're married adults with responsibilities. We don't need to be going out clubbing every weekend. But you and Tyler do. The words came out sharper than I'd intended, and Rachel's eyes narrowed. Tyler and I are friends, good friends. And yes, sometimes friends go out and have fun together. That's normal, David. What's not normal is this jealousy thing you've got going on. I'm not jealous, I said, but even as I said it, I realized how defensive I sounded. You are, though. You're jealous of Tyler, you're jealous of my friendship with him, and you're trying to make me feel guilty about it. That's not fair. She was good at this. I had to give her credit. Somehow she'd turned this conversation around so that I was the bad guy. I was the one being unreasonable. I was the one with the problem. But I had that receipt. I had proof that something was very wrong here. Rachel, I said carefully, can I ask you something? Sure. On New Year's Eve, after the party, where exactly did you and Tyler go? The question hung in the air between us. Rachel's face didn't change, but I saw her grip tighten slightly on her phone. What do you mean? We came home. I told you we were running late. But you didn't get home until after 3. The party ended at 2. We stopped for food. There was this late-night diner Tyler knew about. Why? She was lying. I could see it in the way she wouldn't quite meet my eyes, in the slight tremor in her voice. My wife was lying to my face about where she'd spent New Year's Eve. Just curious, I said. It seemed like a long time for dinner. We talked. Tyler's going through some stuff with his ex, and he needed someone to listen. I was being a good friend. Another lie. Tyler had broken up with his last girlfriend 6 months ago and hadn't seemed particularly torn up about it. But Rachel was building a story, creating a narrative that painted her as the caring friend and me as the paranoid husband. That was nice of you, I said. I thought so. She went back to her phone, clearly considering the conversation over. But I wasn't done, not by a long shot. Over the next few weeks, I started paying closer attention. I noticed how Rachel's face lit up whenever Tyler's name appeared on her phone. I noticed how she always seemed to know what Tyler was doing, where he was going, who he was seeing. I noticed that their nights out were becoming more frequent, and Rachel's explanations for why I couldn't join were becoming more elaborate. Tyler's bringing a date, and she's really shy. Having another couple there might make her uncomfortable. It's a work thing for Tyler, some networking event for the restaurant industry. Tyler's friend is going through a divorce and needs girl talk. It would be weird if you were there. Each excuse was perfectly reasonable on its own, but together they painted a picture of a woman who was spending an awful lot of time and energy on her husband's brother. I started checking our credit card statements more carefully. There were charges I didn't recognize, expensive dinners, cocktail bars, even a charge from Victoria's Secret that Rachel claimed was for a friend's bachelorette party gift. I started paying attention to Rachel's schedule. She was working late more often, going to client dinners that never seemed to result in new business, attending company events that she couldn't quite describe when I asked about them. And I started noticing Tyler's behavior when he came by the house. He was more confident around Rachel, more familiar. He'd touch her arm when he talked to her, stand a little too close, make jokes that seemed designed to exclude me from the conversation. But the real confirmation came 6 weeks after New Year's Eve, when I was using Rachel's laptop to check our joint bank account and saw that her email was still logged in. I shouldn't have looked. I know that. Checking your spouse's email is a violation of privacy and trust. But at that point, I was pretty sure my privacy and trust had already been violated. The email thread with Tyler went back months. Most of it was innocent. Plans for where to go, what time to meet up, complaints about their respective jobs. But as I scrolled down to the more recent messages, the tone changed. Can't wait to see you tonight. David's working late, so we'll have plenty of time to talk. Last night was incredible. I can't stop thinking about you. T. We need to be more careful. David's starting to ask questions. R. Let him ask. What's he going to do? Follow us around? T. This isn't a joke, Tyler. If he finds out, it'll destroy everything. R. Maybe it's time to tell him. We can't keep sneaking around forever. T. Not yet. I need more time to figure out how to handle this. R. I read through the entire thread twice, my hands shaking with rage and disbelief. There it was, in black and white. Proof that my wife and my brother were having an affair. Proof that they had been lying to me for months. Proof that when Rachel called me paranoid, she was gaslighting me to cover up her own betrayal. The most recent email was from 3 days ago. David's been acting suspicious lately. I think we should cool it for a while. R. Tyler's response. Whatever you think is best, but I miss you already. T. I closed the laptop and sat in our kitchen, staring at the wall, trying to process what I'd just learned. My marriage was over. My relationship with my brother was over. Everything I'd thought I knew about my life was a lie, but I didn't confront them, not yet. Because as angry and hurt as I was, I'm also a methodical person. And if this was going to end, when this was going to end, I wanted to be smart about it. I wanted to be prepared. 2 months passed after I discovered those emails. 2 months of living with the knowledge that my wife was cheating on me with my brother. 2 months of pretending everything was normal while I quietly prepared for the inevitable confrontation. I consulted with a divorce attorney, Lisa Morrison, a sharp woman in her 50s who specialized in infidelity cases. I started documenting everything: the hotel receipts, the credit card charges, screenshots of the emails. I opened my own bank account and began transferring money from our joint savings, small amounts that wouldn't be noticed but would give me a financial cushion when everything fell apart. Most importantly, I started paying very close attention to Rachel's behavior, her schedule, and her relationship with Tyler. What I noticed was that their cooling-off period hadn't lasted long. Within 2 weeks of that final email exchange, they were back to their regular routine of nights out together, but now they were being more careful. Rachel would tell me she was going out with her girlfriends from work. Then I'd see Tyler's car parked at the same restaurant when I drove by. Or she'd claim to be working late, and Tyler would post Instagram stories from some bar downtown at the same time. They thought they were being clever. They thought I was just the oblivious husband, too trusting and naive to see what was happening right in front of me. They had no idea I was building a case against them. The physical intimacy between Rachel and me had dwindled to almost nothing. She was always too tired, too stressed, too busy with work. When I tried to initiate anything, she'd find excuses or distractions. We hadn't been intimate since early January, a fact I was keeping careful track of for reasons that would soon become very important. Meanwhile, Rachel seemed happier than she'd been in months. She was glowing, energetic, constantly humming or smiling at her phone. She'd bought new clothes, started working out more, even changed her perfume to something more expensive and sophisticated. All the classic signs of a woman having an affair, all the signs I'd been too trusting to recognize before I found that hotel receipt. Then, on a rainy Thursday morning in March, everything changed. I was in the kitchen making coffee before work when I heard Rachel in the upstairs bathroom, getting sick. She'd been nauseous for a few days, claiming it was something she ate or maybe a stomach bug going around her office. "You okay up there?" I called. "Fine," she called back weakly. "Just give me a minute." I heard her moving around upstairs, then the sound of our bedroom door closing. When I went up to check on her before leaving for work, she was sitting on our bed, staring at something in her hands. "Rach, what's wrong?" She looked up at me, and her face was pale, but her eyes were bright with excitement. "David, I need to tell you something." My stomach dropped. This was it. She was going to confess about Tyler. After months of lying and sneaking around, she was finally going to tell me the truth. "Okay," I said, sitting down next to her on the bed. She held up what she'd been staring at, a pregnancy test, 2 pink lines. "I'm pregnant," she said, her voice filled with wonder and joy. "We're going to have a baby." For a moment, I couldn't speak. I just stared at that pregnancy test, my mind racing through the implications. Rachel was pregnant, but we hadn't been intimate since early January, and it was now mid-March. If she was pregnant, the baby wasn't mine. "David," Rachel was watching my face carefully. "Say something. Are you happy?" I forced myself to smile, forced myself to play the part of the excited husband. "Of course I'm happy. This is incredible news." She threw her arms around me, and I could feel her trembling with excitement. "I can't believe it. We're going to be parents." "How far along are you?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm not sure exactly. I need to make a doctor's appointment to confirm everything, but based on my last period, I think about 8 weeks. 8 weeks. That would put conception around early January, right around the time Rachel and Tyler were spending New Year's Eve in that hotel room. 8 weeks, I repeated. Wow. I know it's a surprise. We weren't exactly trying, but I guess these things happen when they're meant to happen, right? She was glowing, absolutely radiant with happiness. And why wouldn't she be? She was pregnant with the baby of the man she was in love with. The only problem was that man wasn't her husband. "Right," I said. "These things happen." We talked for a few more minutes about doctor's appointments and due dates and how we'd tell our families. Rachel was bubbling over with plans and excitement, and I nodded and smiled and said all the right things. While inside, my mind was working furiously. This changed everything. A pregnancy meant this situation was about to become much more complicated. Rachel wasn't just cheating on me, she was carrying my brother's child and planning to pass it off as mine. But it also gave me an opportunity. Because if I played this right, if I was smart about the timing, I could expose both of them in a way that would leave no room for denial or excuses. After Rachel left for work that morning, I sat in my home office and did some research. I looked up pregnancy timelines, conception dates, and genetic testing options. I researched Tyler's recent social media posts and tried to piece together his schedule from the past few months. And I made a phone call to my brother. "Hey Tyler, it's David. You got a minute?" "Sure. What's up?" "I wanted to talk to you about something. Can you meet me for lunch today?" There was a pause. "Is everything okay?" "Everything's fine. I just have some news I want to share with you in person." We met at a sports bar near Tyler's work, the kind of place with too many TVs and waitresses in tight t-shirts. Tyler was already there when I arrived, looking slightly nervous. "So what's this big news?" he asked after we'd ordered. "Rachel's pregnant," I said, watching his face carefully. Tyler's reaction was everything I needed to see. His face went white, his eyes widened, and for just a second he looked like he was going to be sick. "Pregnant?" he said weakly. 8 weeks along. Can you believe it? I'm going to be a dad." Tyler was struggling to compose himself, but I could see the panic in his eyes. That's great news, David. Congratulations." "Thanks. I'm still processing it, you know? It's going to change everything." "Yeah, I bet." We ate our lunch in relative silence, with Tyler checking his phone constantly and barely touching his food. I kept up a steady stream of chatter about baby names and nursery plans, watching him squirm with every word. "You okay?" I asked finally. "You seem a little off today." "Just tired," Tyler said. "Work's been crazy." "Well, get some rest. I'm going to need my brother's help getting ready for this baby. Rachel's going to want to throw some kind of family dinner to announce the news, and you know how she gets when she's planning events." Tyler nodded mutely, looking like he wanted to crawl under the table. After lunch, I went back to work and waited. I didn't have to wait long. My phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. "Can you come home early today? We need to talk." I smiled. Tyler had obviously called her the moment I left the restaurant. They were probably panicking, trying to figure out what to do, how to handle this situation they'd created. But I wasn't ready for that conversation yet. I had one more card to play first. I texted back, "Can't leave work early today, but I have something to tell you too. Good news about Tyler." "What about Tyler?" "I'll tell you when I get home. Don't worry. Everything's fine." I let her stew on that for the rest of the afternoon. When I finally got home around 6, Rachel was waiting for me in the kitchen, looking anxious and pale. "What did you want to tell me about Tyler?" she asked immediately. "Oh, that. Well, I had lunch with him today to tell him about the baby, and he seemed really excited about being an uncle. Although he did mention something interesting." Rachel's face was tense. "What kind of something?" "He told me he's been having some health issues lately. Nothing too serious, but he's been seeing a doctor, getting some tests done." "What kind of health issues?" I paused, pretending to think. You know, he was kind of vague about it. Something about needing to tell people he's been close to about his diagnosis. He said he's been putting it off because he's embarrassed, but his doctor told him it's important to let people know so they can get tested too. The color drained completely from Rachel's face. "Tested for what?" He didn't say exactly, but reading between the lines, I think it might be an STD. He mentioned something about having to take medication and being more careful in the future. Rachel sat down heavily in one of our kitchen chairs, her hand instinctively moving to her stomach. "Are you okay?" I asked, still playing the concerned husband. "You look pale." "I'm fine," she whispered. "Just the pregnancy. I get nauseous sometimes." "Maybe you should call your doctor, make sure everything's okay with the baby." She nodded numbly, her mind clearly racing through the implications of what I'd just told her. "Actually," I continued, "Tyler mentioned that he's been meaning to call you. Something about wanting to make sure you're okay, since you two have been spending so much time together lately." Rachel's eyes snapped to mine, and for the first time since this whole thing started, I saw real fear there. "What did you tell him?" she asked quietly. "About what?" About me being okay." "I told him you're perfect. Glowing, actually. Never been healthier." I paused, letting that sink in. "Although now that I think about it, maybe you should give him a call, if he's got something contagious and you two have been hanging out so much." I left the sentence hanging, watching as the full weight of the situation hit her. Rachel was pregnant with Tyler's baby, and now she thought Tyler might have given her an STD that could affect both her and the child. The math was finally hitting her, just like I'd planned, and the look of absolute terror on her face told me everything I needed to know about who the father of her baby really was. Rachel excused herself and went upstairs immediately after our conversation about Tyler's health issues. I could hear her on the phone, her voice low and urgent, though I couldn't make out the specific words. She was up there for almost an hour. When she came back down, her face was red and puffy, like she'd been crying, and her hands were shaking. "I need to ask you something," she said, sitting across from me at our kitchen table. "Sure." "When you talked to Tyler today, did he say anything about HIV? There it was, the confirmation I'd been waiting for. HIV, I repeated, as if the thought had never occurred to me. No, why would you think that? She struggled for words. "You said he mentioned getting tested, and I just wondered if he'd been more specific about what kind of tests." "Rachel, you're scaring me. Why would you ask about HIV specifically?" She was quiet for a long moment, staring down at her hands. When she looked up, there were tears in her eyes. "David, I need to tell you something, and you're going to be very angry with me." "What is it?" "Tyler and we've been more than friends." I let the silence stretch between us, watching her struggle to find the words. "We've been having an affair," she said finally. "It started a few months ago, and I know it's terrible, and I know I've been lying to you, but I never meant for it to go this far." "An affair." I said the words slowly, like I was trying to process them. "You and Tyler." "Yes." "For how long?" "Since around Christmas. David, I'm so sorry. I know this is devastating, and I know you probably hate me right now, but I need to know. Did Tyler tell you he has HIV? I stared at her for a moment, letting her see the pain and betrayal on my face. It wasn't hard to fake. Even though I'd known this was coming, hearing her actually admit it still felt like a punch to the gut. "You're asking me about Tyler's medical condition," I said slowly, "after you just told me you've been cheating on me with my brother." "I know how this sounds, but—" "The baby," I interrupted. "The baby you're carrying. Is it mine?" Rachel started crying then, ugly sobs that shook her whole body. "I don't know. I think the timing, it could be Tyler's." "Could be? Probably is," she whispered. I stood up from the table and walked to the window, looking out at our backyard where Tyler and I used to throw a football when we were kids. Everything felt surreal, like I was watching this conversation happen to someone else. "David, please say something." I turned back to her. "You want to know if Tyler has HIV because you're worried about yourself and the baby." "Yes." "The baby, that's probably his." "Yes." "And you're asking me to help you figure out if my brother gave you a transmitted disease while you were cheating on me?" When I put it like that, even Rachel seemed to realize how insane the situation was. "I know it's a lot to ask," she said quietly. "Rachel, I need you to leave." "What?" "I need you to pack a bag and go stay somewhere else tonight. I can't even look at you right now." "David, please, we need to talk about this." "We needed to talk about this months ago before you started sleeping with my brother. We needed to talk about this before you got pregnant with his baby. We needed to talk about this before you spent months lying to my face and making me feel crazy for noticing something was wrong." My voice was getting louder, and Rachel was crying harder. "You called me paranoid," I continued. "You made me feel like I was imagining things, like I was being unreasonable for wanting to spend time with my own wife, and the whole time you were sneaking around with Tyler, planning your little dates, laughing about how clueless I was. It wasn't like that. What was it like, Rachel? Explain it to me. Explain how you accidentally started sleeping with my brother." She flinched at the language, but I was past caring about being polite. "It just happened," she said weakly. "We were spending time together, and we connected, and one thing led to another." "One thing led to another? For months? You accidentally had an affair for months?" "I'm sorry." "You're sorry you got caught. You're sorry Tyler might have HIV. You're sorry the timing of your pregnancy makes it obvious the baby isn't mine. But you're not sorry you did it." Rachel was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "You're right. I'm not sorry I fell in love with Tyler." The honesty of it hit me harder than all her lies had. She was in love with him. This wasn't just about intimacy or excitement or rebellion against our boring marriage. She was in love with my brother. "Pack your things," I said. "Go stay with Tyler since you love him so much. But first, call your doctor and get tested for every STD known to medical science, because Tyler's been sleeping around for years, and God knows what he might have given you." "Did he actually tell you he has HIV?" she asked desperately. I looked at her for a long moment. This woman I'd been married to for 4 years. This woman who was carrying my brother's baby. This woman who'd spent months making me feel like I was losing my mind. "Figure it out yourself," I said. "You're good at keeping secrets and making plans. I'm sure you'll manage." She went upstairs and packed a bag while I sat in the kitchen, staring at the pregnancy test she'd left on the counter. When she came back down, she tried one more time. "David, I know you're angry, but we need to figure out how to handle this. The baby, the divorce, telling our families." "The baby isn't my problem," I said, "and neither are you. Not anymore. But legally? Legally, you committed adultery and got pregnant by another man. I think I'll be fine." She stood in our doorway for a moment, looking like she wanted to say something else. But there was nothing left to say. After she left, I called Tyler. "We need to talk," I said when he answered. "David, I can explain." "I'm sure you can. Rachel's on her way to your place. She's got some interesting news about her pregnancy and some questions about your recent medical history." "What did you tell her?" "I told her you mentioned needing to get tested for STDs. She seemed very concerned about that." There was a long pause. "David, I don't actually have HIV." "I know." "You know?" I made it up to see how she'd react, and her reaction told me everything I needed to know about who's been sleeping with who and whose baby she's carrying. Another pause. "You set us up." "You set yourselves up. I just gave you enough rope to hang yourselves with." "David, I'm sorry. I know you probably don't believe that, but I really am sorry. It wasn't supposed to happen like this." "How was it supposed to happen, Tyler? You were going to steal my wife, and I was just going to be okay with it." "I don't know. I wasn't thinking clearly. Rachel and I, we connected." "You connected? That's beautiful. Really touching. I know you're angry." "I'm not angry, Tyler. I'm done. With both of you. Don't call me. Don't come to my house. Don't try to explain or apologize or make this right. You wanted Rachel? Congratulations. She's your problem now." I hung up and blocked both their numbers. Then I opened a bottle of wine, sat in my backyard, and started planning the next phase of my revenge, because this was far from over. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of legal consultations, paperwork, and strategic planning. I met with Lisa Morrison, my divorce attorney, and laid out everything I'd discovered: the hotel receipts, the emails, the pregnancy timeline, and the recorded confession I'd made on my phone during Rachel's admission of the affair. "This is about as open and shut as adultery cases get," Lisa told me, reviewing the evidence. "With the pregnancy timeline and her admission that the child is likely your brother's, you'll have no problem getting a favorable settlement." "I don't want her money," I said. "I want her to face consequences." "What kind of consequences?" "I want everyone to know what she did. I want her family to know, my family to know, her coworkers, our friends. I want her to face the social consequences of her choices." Lisa raised an eyebrow. "That's not really how divorce law works, David. We file papers, we negotiate settlements, we divide assets. We don't orchestrate public humiliation campaigns." "Then I'll handle that part myself." And I did. First, I called my parents and told them everything. My mother cried, my father was furious, and they both immediately disowned Tyler. The family dinner where Rachel had planned to announce her pregnancy was canceled indefinitely. Then I called Rachel's parents. That conversation was harder because I'd always liked them, and they'd always treated me like a son, but they deserved to know why their daughter's marriage was ending. "Are you sure about this, David?" Rachel's mother asked through tears. "Rachel's always been impulsive, but this seems so unlike her." "I have evidence, Mrs. Peterson. Photos, emails, recorded confessions. I'm not making this up." "And the baby?" "Isn't mine." The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. Word spread quickly through our social circle. Rachel and Tyler tried to control the narrative at first, telling people we were having some problems and taking a break, but I made sure the truth came out. I sent screenshots of their emails to our mutual friends, along with a simple message. "Thought you should know why Rachel and I are getting divorced." The response was swift and brutal. Rachel's best friend Sarah called her a selfish witch and blocked her on all social media. Our couple friends chose sides, and most of them chose mine. Tyler's friends at the sports bar started calling him home wrecker, and his manager had to have a conversation with him about his personal life affecting his work environment. But the real masterpiece was what I did with their social media. Rachel had always been very active on Instagram and Facebook, posting carefully curated photos of our perfect life together. She'd posted dozens of pictures from her nights out with Tyler, always captioned with things like "fun night with my brother-in-law" or "Tyler always knows the best places." I went through every single one of those photos and commented with timestamps and context. Under a photo of Rachel and Tyler at a wine bar. "This was the night they checked into the Marriott together." I was home thinking she was at a work event. Under a photo of them at some club, Rachel told me she was having dinner with her girlfriends. Interesting definition of girlfriends. Under a photo of Tyler with his arm around Rachel. Look how comfortable they are together. Almost like they're more than just in-laws. Rachel deleted the comments as fast as I posted them, but not before her friends and family saw them. And every time she deleted one, I posted another. The coup de grace came when I created a detailed timeline of their affair and posted it as a public Facebook note, tagged with both Rachel and Tyler's names. I included photos of the hotel receipt, screenshots of their emails, and a detailed breakdown of every lie Rachel had told me over the past 6 months. The post went viral among our extended social network. It was shared dozens of times, commented on hundreds of times, and seen by virtually everyone we knew. Rachel called me, sobbing and furious. "Take it down," she demanded. "Take down that post right now." "No. David, this is destroying my life. I can't go anywhere without people staring at me and whispering. My boss called me into his office to ask if I was having personal problems that might affect my work. Tyler's getting harassed at his job." "Good. This isn't fair." "Fair? You want to talk about fair? Was it fair to lie to me for months? Was it fair to make me feel crazy for noticing my wife was having an affair? Was it fair to get pregnant with my brother's baby and try to pass it off as mine?" "I never said the baby was yours. You never said it wasn't either. You were perfectly happy to let me believe it, to let me start planning for a child that isn't mine." Rachel was crying again. "David, please. I know I hurt you, but this public humiliation campaign isn't helping anyone. It's not going to fix our marriage. It's not going to make you feel better. It's just causing more pain for everyone involved. Our marriage is over, Rachel. It was over the moment you decided to start sleeping with Tyler. And you're wrong about this not making me feel better. It's making me feel much better. What do you want from me? What do I have to do to make you stop? I want you to face the consequences of your actions. I want everyone to know who you really are, not the perfect wife and career woman image you've been projecting. I want you to experience a fraction of the humiliation and betrayal you put me through. And then what? When you've destroyed my reputation and my relationships and my career, then what? Will you be satisfied?" I thought about it for a moment. "Ask me in a few months." The harassment campaign continued. I made sure everyone in Rachel's professional network knew about the affair. I sent anonymous emails to her company's HR department with evidence of her lies about working late and attending fake client events. I posted negative reviews of Tyler's bar on every platform I could find, always mentioning his unprofessional personal behavior. They tried to fight back. Tyler showed up at my house one night, drunk and angry, demanding I stop this bullshit. "You want to settle this like men?" he slurred, swaying on my front porch. "We're not men, Tyler. Men don't steal their brothers' wives. Men don't sneak around and lie and betray their family." "I love her," he said, like that explained everything. "Then you should have told me that before you started sleeping with her behind my back." He took a swing at me then, but he was too drunk to connect properly. I stepped aside and let him fall into my rose bushes, then went inside and locked the door. The next morning, I filed a police report for attempted assault and got a restraining order. Rachel tried a different approach. She showed up at my office looking tired and defeated. "David, we need to talk." "We have nothing to talk about. All communication goes through my lawyer." "I'm pregnant with complications," she said quietly. "The stress from all this drama is affecting the baby. My doctor says I need to reduce stress or I could miscarry." For just a moment, I felt a flicker of sympathy. But then I remembered the months of lies, the gaslighting, the way she'd made me feel like I was losing my mind. "That's unfortunate," I said. "Maybe you should have thought about that before you decided to cheat on your husband." "This baby didn't choose to be part of this situation." "Neither did I." "David, please, I'm begging you. I'll give you whatever you want in the divorce. You can have the house, the cars, everything. Just please stop the public harassment campaign." "The house and cars were already going to be mine, Rachel. Adultery tends to affect asset division." She stared at me for a moment, and I could see her trying to figure out if there was anything left of the man she'd married, any trace of compassion or forgiveness she could appeal to. There wasn't. "I don't know who you are anymore," she said finally. "I'm the man whose wife cheated on him with his brother and tried to make him raise another man's child. I'm exactly who you made me." She left without another word. But I wasn't done yet, not even close, because the final phase of my plan was just beginning, and it was going to be the most devastating of all. 3 months after Rachel moved out, I was living my best life. I'd lost 15 pounds, started working out regularly, and had begun dating again. My work performance had improved dramatically. Apparently, not being constantly worried about your wife's whereabouts is great for productivity. Meanwhile, Rachel and Tyler's relationship was imploding under the pressure of public scrutiny and unplanned pregnancy. Rachel had been forced to take a leave of absence from her job after the HR investigation into her fake client dinners and fabricated overtime. Tyler had been fired from the sports bar after too many customers complained about his presence, and he was struggling to find new employment with his reputation in ruins. They'd moved in together out of necessity rather than romance. Neither could afford their own place anymore, and both had been cut off by their families. According to mutual friends who were still speaking to me, they fought constantly about money, the baby, and whose fault their situation was. But I wasn't satisfied yet, because there was still one more revelation that would complete their destruction. I'd been doing some research into Tyler's dating history, reaching out to his ex-girlfriends and one-night stands from the past few years. Most of them were happy to share stories about his lies, his cheating, and his general untrustworthiness. But one conversation was particularly enlightening. Her name was Jessica, and she'd dated Tyler for about 6 months the previous year. Tyler's a pathological liar, she told me over coffee. He lies about everything, his age, his job, his family, his feelings. But the worst part was finding out he'd been cheating on me with multiple women the entire time we were together. Did you ever get tested for STDs? I asked. Oh yeah, immediately after we broke up. Thankfully everything came back negative, but I was terrified for weeks. Why terrified? Jessica looked uncomfortable. Well, Tyler had mentioned that he'd had some health scares in the past. Nothing specific, but he was always paranoid about getting tested and insisted on seeing my results before we slept together. I figured he'd either had something before or been with someone who had. This was interesting. Did he ever mention HIV specifically? Not HIV, but he did say something once about having to take medication for something he'd picked up from a girl in college. He was really vague about it, but it sounded serious. I filed this information away and continued my research. What I discovered was a pattern of Tyler lying about his intimate health, demanding STD tests from partners while being evasive about his own status, and generally being paranoid about disease transmission. It painted a picture of someone who either had something to hide or was deeply anxious about catching something. Either way, it gave me an idea for the final phase of my revenge plan. I waited until Rachel was about 6 months pregnant, showing clearly and starting to prepare for the baby's arrival. Then I made my move. I created a fake email account and sent Rachel a message that appeared to come from a women's health clinic. Dear Ms. Peterson, we've been trying to reach you regarding some test results that require immediate attention. Please contact our office as soon as possible to discuss your recent STD panel and the implications for your pregnancy. This is a time-sensitive matter that could affect both your health and your baby's development. Sincerely, Cleveland Women's Health Associates. I included a phone number that went to a Google Voice account I'd set up, complete with a professional voicemail message. Rachel called within an hour. This is Rachel Peterson, she said when I answered, disguising my voice slightly. I received an email about test results. Yes, Ms. Peterson. Thank you for calling back. I'm afraid we have some concerning results from your recent STD panel that we need to discuss immediately. What kind of results? I can't discuss details over the phone, but I need you to come in today if possible. This involves potential transmission risks to your unborn child. Rachel's voice was shaking. Is it HIV? Ma'am, I really can't discuss specifics over the phone. Can you come in this afternoon? Yes, I'll be there. What's your address? I gave her the address of a medical building downtown, told her to ask for Dr. Martinez in Suite 304, and said I'd see her at 3 p.m. Of course, there was no Dr. Martinez and no appointment, but Rachel didn't know that. What she did know was that she was 6 months pregnant, had been sleeping with Tyler for almost a year, and now believed she had test results showing she'd contracted something serious. I followed her to the medical building and watched from my car as she went inside, clearly panicked and distressed. She was in there for about 20 minutes, probably trying to find Suite 304 and Dr. Martinez, getting increasingly frantic when she couldn't locate either. When she came back outside, she was crying and talking rapidly on her phone. I couldn't hear what she was saying, but I could see her gesturing frantically. She drove straight to Tyler's apartment. I waited about an hour, then called Tyler's number from another fake account. Tyler Chen? I said when he answered. Yeah? This is Detective Morrison with the Cleveland Police Department. We need you to come down to the station to answer some questions regarding a complaint that's been filed against you. What kind of complaint? It involves allegations of knowingly transmitting a transmitted disease to a pregnant woman. This is a serious felony charge, Mr. Chen, and we need to speak with you immediately. I don't, I haven't. This is a mistake. Sir, we have medical records and witness statements. You need to come in voluntarily, or we'll be forced to issue a warrant for your arrest. Tyler was breathing heavily. Can I bring a lawyer? That's your right, sir, but I'd recommend coming in today. These charges tend to get more serious the longer they're delayed. I hung up and waited. Within 2 hours, both Rachel and Tyler were at the police station, trying to figure out what was happening. Of course, there was no Detective Morrison and no charges filed, but they didn't know that. They spent the afternoon in a panic, calling lawyers, trying to get information about charges that didn't exist, and probably fighting with each other about whose fault this imaginary situation was. The best part was that their panic was being observed and documented by actual police officers, who probably thought they were dealing with two very guilty people acting suspiciously about some real crime. By evening, they'd figured out it was a hoax, and they knew exactly who was responsible. Tyler called me from Rachel's phone since I'd blocked his number. You bastard, he said when I answered. Do you have any idea what you put us through today? I have some idea, yeah. Rachel had a panic attack at the police station. She's 6 months pregnant, David. You could have caused her to go into premature labor. That would have been unfortunate. This has gone too far. The social media stuff, the harassment, fine. We deserved that. But this fake medical scare, the fake police investigation, you're playing with people's lives. You played with my life first. We made a mistake. You made a choice, multiple choices over many months, and now you're facing the consequences. David, please. We get it. We screwed up. We hurt you. We're sorry. But we're trying to build a life together. We're having a baby, and this constant harassment is destroying any chance we have at happiness. Good. There was a long silence. Then Tyler said, What do you want? What will it take for you to stop? I want you to suffer the way I suffered. I want you to feel paranoid and confused and like you can't trust anyone. I want you to question every relationship, every conversation, every piece of information you receive. I want you to know what it feels like to have your reality constantly undermined by someone who's supposed to care about you. For how long? For as long as I feel like it. David, that's not healthy for any of us. You need to move on. I'll move on when I'm ready, and I'm not ready yet. I hung up and started planning the next phase. But as it turned out, I didn't need to plan anything else, because Tyler and Rachel's relationship was about to implode all on its own, in a way that was far more satisfying than anything I could have orchestrated. 2 weeks after the fake police investigation incident, I got a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. David, this is Sarah Martinez. Sarah was Rachel's former best friend, the one who'd called Rachel a selfish witch and cut contact after learning about the affair. Hi, Sarah. What can I do for you? I need to tell you something about Rachel and Tyler, something you're going to want to know. We met at a coffee shop near my office. Sarah looked tired and conflicted, like she was wrestling with whether to share whatever information she had. I've been staying out of this whole situation, she began. After I found out what Rachel did to you, I was so angry and disgusted that I cut her off completely. But yesterday, she showed up at my apartment, crying and begging me to listen to her. What did she want? She wanted to confess about everything. And David, it's worse than you know. Sarah pulled out her phone and showed me a voice recording. She gave me permission to record this conversation. She said she wanted someone to have the truth on record in case anything happened to her. In case anything happened to her? What does that mean? Just listen. Sarah pressed play, and Rachel's voice filled the space between us, shaky and emotional. Sarah, I need someone to know the truth about everything that's happened. David thinks Tyler and I started our affair around Christmas, but that's not true. We've been sleeping together for over a year, since before David and I even got married. My blood ran cold. Rachel's recorded voice continued. The night before our wedding, Tyler came to my hotel room. He said he was in love with me, that he couldn't watch me marry his brother knowing how he felt. I should have sent him away, but I didn't. We slept together that night, and we've been sleeping together ever since. Sarah paused the recording. There's more. Keep playing. The pregnancy isn't an accident. Tyler and I planned it. We wanted to have a baby together, but we knew we couldn't do it openly without destroying both our relationships with your family. So we decided I would get pregnant and let David think it was his, then we'd figure out how to be together later. I felt like I was going to be sick. The reason David never suspected anything at first was because Tyler and I were careful. We only met when David was working late or out of town. But after I got pregnant, we got careless. We wanted to spend more time together, so we started the whole going out as friends thing as a cover. Sarah stopped the recording again. David, I'm so sorry. I had no idea it went back that far. Is there more? Yeah, the worst part. She pressed play again. When David started getting suspicious, Tyler wanted to tell him the truth, but I convinced him to wait. I thought I could manage David, keep him calm until after the baby was born. I never expected him to be as smart as he was, or to gather evidence the way he did. The fake HIV scare that David pulled was actually brilliant, because Tyler does have a history of STDs. He had chlamydia twice in college, and gonorrhea once after that. He's always been paranoid about getting tested because he's afraid of getting something serious. When I told him David mentioned HIV, he panicked and assumed David had somehow found out about his real medical history. But here's the thing Sarah doesn't know, that no one knows. Tyler has been cheating on me, too. The whole time we've been together, he's been sleeping with other women. I found out 2 weeks ago when one of them called me, thinking I was his girlfriend, to tell me she was pregnant, too. Sarah and I stared at each other across the coffee table. Tyler got another woman pregnant? I asked. That's what Rachel says. Listen to this part. Her name is Amanda, and she's a bartender at some club downtown. She's about 3 months pregnant, which means Tyler got her pregnant around the same time my pregnancy was becoming obvious. When I confronted him about it, he said it didn't matter because he was planning to leave me anyway once our baby was born. He said he never really loved me, that this whole thing started as just intimacy and got out of hand when I got pregnant. He said he was only staying with me now because he felt obligated to support his child, but that he had no intention of building a real life with me. The recording continued for another few minutes, with Rachel detailing Tyler's emotional abuse, his drinking problem, and his complete lack of interest in preparing for their baby's arrival. When it ended, Sarah and I sat in silence for a moment. Why did she tell you all this? I asked finally. Because Tyler kicked her out. She's 6 months pregnant, unemployed, estranged from her family, and now homeless. She's living in some extended stay motel near the airport. And she wants what from me? Nothing. She said she knows she destroyed any chance of forgiveness from you, and she's not asking for help. She just wanted someone to know the truth about Tyler, in case he tries to spin some story about her being the villain in all this. I absorbed this information slowly. Rachel and Tyler had been having an affair since before my wedding. They'd planned the pregnancy. Tyler had been cheating on both of us. And now their relationship had imploded exactly the way my marriage had. There's one more thing, Sarah said. Rachel asked me to give you this. She handed me an envelope with my name written on it in Rachel's handwriting. I haven't read it, Sarah said, but she said it was important. I opened the envelope and found a letter, along with what looked like legal documents. David, the letter began, I know I have no right to ask anything of you after what I've done, but I need you to know some things. First, I am truly sorry for the pain I've caused you. Not just the affair, but the lies, the gaslighting, the way I made you feel crazy for trusting your instincts. You deserved so much better than what I gave you. Second, I want you to know that Tyler manipulated both of us. He pursued me relentlessly before our wedding, told me he loved me, convinced me that my feelings for him were real, and that my marriage to you was a mistake. He made me believe that we were meant to be together, that we just needed to find the right time and way to make it happen. I'm not making excuses for my choices. I could have said no, I could have told you the truth, I could have handled this in a dozen different ways. But I want you to understand that Tyler is not the person either of us thought he was. Third, I'm signing over all my rights to our shared assets. The house, the cars, the savings accounts, everything. I don't want anything from our marriage except your forgiveness, and I know I don't deserve even that. Finally, I want you to know that despite everything that's happened, the time we were truly happy together was the best part of my life. You are a good man, David. You deserved a better wife than me, and I hope someday you find the love and loyalty you should have had all along. I'm sorry for everything. Rachel. Attached to the letter were signed documents transferring her ownership of our house and cars to me, along with a quitclaim deed and financial statements showing she'd withdrawn nothing from our accounts since moving out. I looked up at Sarah, who was watching my face carefully. What do you think? She asked. I think Rachel finally learned what it feels like to be betrayed by someone you trust. Are you going to help her? I considered the question. Rachel was pregnant, homeless, and abandoned by the man she'd destroyed her marriage for. She was facing exactly the kind of devastating consequences I'd wanted her to face. But she was also carrying a child who didn't deserve to suffer for the adult's mistakes. No, I said finally. I'm not going to help her, but I'm not going to hurt her anymore either. What does that mean? It means I'm done. The revenge campaign ends now. Rachel is Tyler's problem, and Tyler is no longer my brother. I'm going to move on with my life and let them deal with the consequences of their choices. Sarah nodded. I think that's probably the healthiest thing for everyone. What about you? Are you going to help her? Sarah was quiet for a moment. I don't know. Part of me thinks she deserves everything that's happening to her, but part of me remembers that she used to be my best friend before all this happened. That's your choice to make. We parted ways outside the coffee shop, and I drove home to the house that was now entirely mine. I sat in my living room, looking at Rachel's letter and the legal documents, trying to figure out how I felt about this latest revelation. Tyler had played us both. He'd seduced my wife, convinced her to plan a pregnancy, and then abandoned her when the situation became inconvenient. In a way, Rachel had become the victim of the same kind of manipulation and betrayal that I'd experienced. But I couldn't bring myself to feel sorry for her. She'd made her choices, just like I'd made mine. The difference was that my choices had led to justice, hers had led to destruction, and I was finally completely satisfied with that outcome. 6 months later, I heard through mutual acquaintances that Rachel had given birth to a baby boy. Tyler was not present for the birth and had signed away his parental rights. Rachel was raising the child alone, working part-time at a retail job, and living in a small apartment across town. Tyler had moved to another state, reportedly to escape his debts and his reputation. The other woman he'd gotten pregnant had also given birth and was pursuing him for child support. As for me, I was dating someone new, a woman named Jennifer who worked in marketing and had never been married before. She was kind, honest, and refreshingly straightforward about her feelings and intentions. We'd been together for 3 months when she asked me about my previous marriage. It ended badly, I told her. My ex-wife cheated on me with my brother. That's horrible, Jennifer said. How did you find out? I caught them, and then I made sure everyone else knew what they'd done. Good for you. People like that deserve to face consequences for their actions. I smiled, thinking about how far I'd come from the trusting, naive husband who'd been so worried about seeming paranoid. Yes, I agreed, they certainly do.